So consider a ring. Okay, so here's a ring. Okay, and on this ring, I'm going to draw some number of red dots and an equal number of blue dots. Okay, so I'm going to draw some red dots. In this case, I'm going to draw, 6 red dots, and I'm going to draw an equal number of blue dots. So an equal number of blue dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, I'm going to start a tour around this ring. Okay. And, let's imagine that I start at a blue point, okay, or just before a blue point. Okay. And as I go around the ring, I'm going to count up, how many blue points have I passed and how many red points have I passed. So imagine that I start my tour at this spot. Okay. And I'm going to go all the way around. Okay. And I'm going to end up back here. And okay, so initially I've not passed any points. So I'm going to go in this direction. Okay, and initially I've not passed any points. Okay, so the way I'll denote that is I've passed 0 blue points and 0 red points. Okay. Now, once I pass this point, I've passed 1 blue point and 0 red points. Okay. Once I pass this point, I've passed 2 blue points and 0 red points. Okay, and then once I pass this point, I've now passed 2 blue points and 1 red point. And then once I pass this point, I've now passed 2 blue points and 2 red points. Okay. And now once I pass this point, I've passed 3 blue points and 2 red points. Once I pass this point, I've passed 3 blue points and 3 red points. And once I pass this point, I've passed 4 and 3 red. Once I pass this point, I've passed 5 and 3 red. And once I pass this point, I've passed 5 and 4 red. Once I pass this point, I've passed 5 blue and 5 red. And once I pass this point, I've passed 6 blue and 5 red. And once I pass this point, I have passed 6 red and 6 blue. And I end up, coming back to my starting point, okay, at this point. So I've gone around and I've kept track as I go around of how many blue points do I pass and how many red points do I pass. And one thing you will observe is that by starting here, okay, the number of blue points I have passed is always at least as large as the number of red points I have passed. Okay, so the number of blue points I have passed is always at least the number of red points. Now, that's because I chose this very special starting point. Okay. If I chose a different starting point, for example, if I started here, immediately I pass a red point and the red points exceed the blue points. Okay. So it's not true that the number of blue points is at least the number of red points no matter where I start. But there's a special point to start where this is true. And so the question is, no matter how you arrange the red and blue points, and no matter how many red points there are, providing there are as many blue points, is it always possible to find such a special starting point? Is it always possible to find such a special starting point? Okay. Turns out the answer is yes. You can put 10,000 red and 10,000 blue and I'll be able to find a special starting point. Okay, but then the question is how to prove it. And you can use induction to prove it. The first thing when you approach a problem like this with induction is to identify your claim, P of n. Okay. And in this case, we can make the claim, P of n is the claim that if there are n red and n blue, so that's where the n comes in. If there are n red and n blue, it's always possible to find this a special starting point. Okay, now you need to prove that P of 1 is true. That's relatively easy. You now need to prove that P of n implies P of n plus 1. That's the tricky one. But if you can prove that P of n implies P of n plus 1, boom! Induction tells you it's always possible. Okay, and here's an example of a problem that we can prove with induction. That doesn't look anything mathematical. And that should sort of illustrate, how induction is so powerful. And in fact, it's instrumental in proving things about recursions, about dynamic programs, about greedy algorithms. I mean, all kinds of things. Okay, and so, if you can master induction, man, woo, you are there. Okay, so try to solve this problem by induction. Okay, if you solve it by induction, man, you are there. Okay, but if you cannot, it's in the book. Okay, we go through this problem carefully in the book, and you can see how you can use induction to prove such strange things, and you can use induction to prove all kinds of things. Signing off.